He previously served in the Trump administration, the previous one, in terms of diplomacy and global public affairs. This inflationary pressure, Michelle, is it worth it in the short term for long term, bringing potentially more manufacturing back to the US?
Well, I'll start with Caroline. When I served as Assistant Secretary of State for Global Public Affairs, we had 4,000 public affairs officers in 185 missions across the world, advancing one of America's key messages at the time, which was fairness and reciprocity. And that's because President Trump had been saying it since day one. In his first foreign trip at Riyadh, he said it in Da Nang, he said it in Warsaw, he said it at the UN twice, he said it at Davos. So fairness and reciprocity, fair and reciprocal trade, has been a key message of the United States for a very long time under this president. And I think the uncertainty that we're seeing right now and the discomfort that we're seeing is less uncertainty and actually more of an adjustment about what the long-term trajectory is going to be to make sure that the United States is as economically and technologically competitive as possible.
Point us to that longer-term trajectory, therefore, Michelle. This is not a surprise to you. So those that are still feeling that instability, as you call it, how do they see the next few months go if they're a business leader having to decide where to invest?
Well, I think even longer term than that, we have a strategic decision to make as a country. Are we going to wake up and are we going to worry that the S&P is down 8.3% since February? Or are we going to worry about the United States becoming a technology and an economic and a manufacturing powerhouse in the 21st century so that we can lead the world and we can be the safest, freest, and most prosperous country that the world has ever seen? And if the choice is the latter, then we're going to have to re-engineer a lot of things in order to be the global leader and to secure our national security and our prosperity. Tariffs are a part of that, but there's a lot more that has to be done. And we've seen in recent weeks the America First investment strategy come out. So we're investing into our economy and our technologies with national security in mind. We just saw a couple days ago the announcement about the new U.S. investment accelerator. All of these things are going to help us be an economic powerhouse and a manufacturing powerhouse, because not only do we have to design and innovate and code new technologies, we also have to build them because it's imperative to our national security.
And companies have been trying to build them and ultimately using the CHIPS Act. Previously, you've had Intel promised at least $8 billion to be able to bring manufacturing of chips here, as well as R&D, another $3 billion being promised if they bring R&D to the military there in particular. But now that hangs in the balance. I understand and hear you in terms of there's this new U.S. investment accelerator, but that is a cause for uncertainty for these companies too.
It is, but look outside of just the CHIPS Act. You had the SoftBank investment, $100 billion to start moving to $500 billion to build AI, data, and energy infrastructure here in the United States. TSMC dedicated another $100 billion. At Purdue Research Park, the Krach Institute is at Purdue University. At Purdue Research Park, SK Hynix, $4 billion to build advanced packaging. Hyundai just did $20 billion in Louisiana. So it's not just CHIPS Act and federal spending, but there's a lot of private sector companies from foreign countries that are investing here because they want to build here, and it's all good news for the United States.
Michelle, I think, therefore, an element of uncertainty here. We can see what the US wants, but it's how the others react. And for many in technology, they're wondering, how do digital services become impacted if Europe fights back on these tariffs? How do you game that out for business leaders?
Yeah, I think that's going to be a short-term and a long-term conversation between the U.S. and Europe, and specifically our tech companies and their regulatory bodies. But I'll say this: European Commission head Ursula von der Leyen said yesterday that Europe is always going to look out for European values and European self-interest. The United States has to do the same, which means that there has to be a level playing field between our most trusted partners, just like the EU, or Mexico or Canada, in addition to adversaries like China who are trying to compete and lead in technology. And so this is all about looking toward America's self-interest. We have to manufacture, we have to build, we have to innovate, and make sure that we are re-engineering the global system in order to serve that so the United States can lead.
And to compete against China. Will this ensure that? Or could we see TikTok almost become part of the negotiation, which takes many by surprise?
We'll see. The deadline's coming up on April 5th, and I think we're going to, the president has said he wants to try to find a way to maintain their presence here while protecting our national security. We'll see. But it is law that they have to divest or leave the United States. In terms of the U.S.-China competition more broadly, the way that we outcompete China is to innovate and enterprise and manufacture and build faster, better, and smarter. And by focusing on our ability to do all of those things here at home, to unleash the private sector, is our best chance of winning and leading, just as we did in the 20th century.